13 years after the release of the highest-grossing film in the history of Avatar, its sequel from the same genius, James Cameron, was also released. If you are interested in the Avatar universe, then you know that according to the original plans, the sequel was supposed to be released back in 2014. But it turned out that The Way of the Water came out at the end of 2022. This gap between films Cameron himself explained by the fact that he needed to write a fully completed story, which he sees in 5 films. That is, we are waiting for at least 3 more films after the sequel. Before the release of Avatar 2, the director told the studio that he had already turned in a 9-hour version of the film's 3rd film. So Avatar 3 will come out a little faster than its predecessor. Even earlier, James Cameron said that if the 2nd part fails, the story cannot be brought to 5 films and finish on the 3rd. According to him, the plot of the threequel, if desired, can be brought to a logical conclusion to the franchise, and for a full return on investment, Avatar 2 should collect more than $2 billion. That is to become at least the 3rd highest grossing film in history. However, before the release of The Way of the Water, the director believed in himself, opened up and said that the events of Avatar 5 should unfold on Earth. Cameron also stated that he has plans for both the 6th and 7th parts. All in all, the man's plans are global. But today, we are only going to talk about the 2nd film. The Way of the Water is a direct sequel to 2009's Avatar. We are not told exactly how many years have passed since the events of the 1st part, and that's a decent amount of years, at least 12 minus 15, or even a little more. Planet Earth is close to destruction because of human activities, so the government gives the military the task of preparing Pandora for the resettlement of people there. To do this, of course, it is necessary to exterminate all enemies. In general, globally, the threat remains the same, the Sky People. Only there are more of them, and the technology is much more advanced. It was interesting to see how the focus of the story shifted from Jake Sully and Neytiri to their children and the children they are raising. Indeed, the children have more screen time than the parents, and they really are the main characters in the film. While you watch it, you get a feel for the new characters. You identify with some of them, and you start to empathize with them. Here we have the model warrior boy, the naughty son, the human son, who is the biological son of Jake's worst enemy, the little girl, and even of Vor's own daughter. There are also new characters in the form of the inhabitants of the new aquatic tribe, where Sally's family finds themselves. And for all of them, Cameron prescribed some good storylines that touch the soul. The return of Colonel Miles Quaritch as an Avatar seems somehow strange. The most important thing is that it is not explained to us exactly how it happened. He seems to have died, but was reborn, or it's not him at all, but a clone of him with his memories and feelings. There was some confusion here for me personally. The same confusion arose with Kira, the daughter of Sigourney Weaver's character and Avor herself. Who is she really? That question is probably already for a separate article with theories on the movie. And the role of Quaritch in the sequel seemed to me much weaker than in the 1st part. Here, he's just a villain who runs after Sally, but can't really do anything. Yes, he has some kind of relationship with his son, but it didn't move me, because, again, it wasn't explained to us until the end who we see before as just Quaritch's memories or his spirit in the body of an avatar. Simply put, the plot continues the lines of the 1st film. The same people, the same Pandora, only now the water part. So here the sequel loses slightly to the original, because in 2009 such a plot was a novelty. Another plus, I want to refer to the final battle. With the exception of the battle between Jake and Quaritch, it was cooler in the 1st part. If you take the battle between the human and Na'vi forces, the sequel showed it on a much larger scale than the original. This is in my subjective opinion. I watched Avatar 2 and felt the power of the film in the area of computer graphics. Like the recent Lord of the Rings series, you can pause every frame of The Way of the Water and admire the polished graphics. It may not be as revolutionary as it was in 2009, but Cameron sets the shots and angles so well that the movie looks just chic. Even before the film's release, the director chuckled when the example of good graphics was cited for the elaboration of Thanos' face from the last 2 Avengers movies. And it's clear why Avatar 2 has a completely different level of elaboration of such details. It is difficult to single out a particular soundtrack among the music, but the musical accompaniment perfectly complements the scenes in the right places, gives a charge of the right emotions, and at the same time the music doesn't interfere. You don't notice it in the course of the tape. The main disadvantage was the fact that events flow very quickly. and many details, albeit sometimes small details, are not explained to us. You have to figure it out for yourself. And another minus is that Cameron has announced his plans as far back as Avatar 7. How then can we worry about the main characters if it is obvious that they will all survive? Yes, to spice up the story, you can end up with stories of secondary characters that the audience has already become intimate with. There was a similar thing in the sequel, but frankly, it wasn't enough. In the finale of each film, the hero must fight the villain. In the first film, Jake and Neytiri fought against Quaritch in an exoskeleton. Now Jake fought Quaritch again, but in the form of an avatar. James Cameron said that Quaritch is the main villain of the whole franchise. In the second film, of course, he didn't die. So ask yourself the question, would you be interested in watching a movie where the hero fights the villain in the finale, but you know in advance that both of them will survive and fight again in the next movie? In my opinion, Cameron is a little underdeveloped from a plot point of view. The scenes with the child hostages became an empty farce to me. Quaritch could have used them against Jake as he threatened to. None of the parents were in a hurry to save the children. Neytiri could have dealt with Quaritch by shooting an arrow from behind his back, because it was 2 against 1.